You're listening to the Reds Podcast.
This is episode number 16, and we're taking more listener questions. Anna wants to know about creating a website on the cheap, and we tell her exactly how to do that, going through different options, some of them which won't cost a dime. That's coming up on Red Podcast.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
So, Laurel, we went to the comedy club this week.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's cool. We get down there. We actually can walk to the comedy club.
Yeah, we live pretty close to the comedy club.
Pretty close. So we go there, 2 or 3 times a year maybe?
Yeah, we go there every time there is a first-time comic graduating class. And you can kind of explain what that is. So I know a guy, Laurel knows him too. His name is Rick Roberts, and he has a company called School of Laughs. They're at schooloflaughs.com. And Rick is a guy who's still on the road a lot. I think last year he told me, if I'm not mistaken, and it sounds like a ton to me, Laurel, something like 180 gigs last year. Wow. So he's just doing these stand-up gigs?
All the time, everywhere. He does corporate stuff during the day, goes and does the club at night. So I think that's one of the reasons he's had so many. But the guy's toured the world, television appearances, done a lot of writing for people. He's a good guy, too. And one of the things he's passionate about is helping upcoming comics, and he takes probably, a dozen guys through the paces every few months, helps them write a set, get their performance polished up, and we go see that very first public performance.
Yeah, it's like their graduation where they all get up on stage for about 3 or so minutes and give their little joke set.
Yeah, so it was fun, and then a feature act and a headliner will come on.
And David, you've actually done this class.
I have
been up on that stage.
I've been up on that stage. I've been up on a few stages, and it was fun. It was really beneficial to me. The performance is cool because you get to check out what works and what doesn't. But for me, working with Rick has been really beneficial because he's great at brevity and getting to the point. And when you're up on stage in a comedy club, you've only got 3 minutes. As a matter of fact, Zanies, which is the local comedy club here, one of them, they're in Chicago, they're everywhere. These guys will only give you, if you're a new comic, 90 seconds. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a comic bomb on stage, but 3-5 minutes, that can seem like a really long time.
And some of these guys at the graduation, they do tend to bomb. Not all of them.
Yeah, well, sometimes they lose touch with an audience, but I would highly recommend this for anybody who's doing public speaking, anybody who's doing any kind of sales, because it's great as far as seeing what gets a reaction out of people. It's great as far as what it takes to keep in touch with people and keep that rapport going. So there's some really great skills, and I think that Rick actually has a lot of this stuff online now. Schooloflaughs.com is the website. So if you're interested in that, check it out, and maybe we'll get Laurel up there someday.
I don't know about that. Yeah. I like being on stage. I like talking about business and stuff, but like going up there and trying to get people to laugh at my jokes, which I would write terrible jokes. That's like one of those worst nightmare kind of things. But,
well, a lot of those guys have writers. They have writers that will help them, the pro guys that we've seen. And something that you don't realize, and you'll appreciate this because you're writing a book, but all the work that goes into the finished product that we see, the HBO specials, Showtime, the clubs that we go to where we see a polished act, that's taken a lot of work and a lot of times other writers to help with that. So
I need other writers. That's just what has to happen with this book.
Well, speaking of writing, we had some people writing questions for us.
Yeah, we were going to hit on user questions, audience questions today.
Listener questions. And we had 3 of them that I wrote down that are kind of the same question, really. And the basic question, I'll read this one from Anna. She wants to know how to create a blog with the least expense. She says she's having serious money issues. I'm not sure what that means, but we can hopefully help her there. And Kimberly wrote in, she said, how do you get a website up and running without spending a small fortune?
So we thought those were pretty
those are very similar. I don't know about Anna's issues, but I would imagine, let's set a budget here, Laurel. Let's say $100. You think we can do it for $100?
I think we can do it.
All right. So
maybe 200. I'm going to go for 200.
Okay.
Closest without going over.
Right. Well, I think for 200, you can definitely do it. And I will say this. We are not people that try to cut corners. We try to do things right. I think some people overspend when they're starting their businesses. But at the same time, if you're not willing to invest money in what you're doing, to me it shows limited belief, shows you're not serious, which I guess you could say is limited belief. And it's how people treat hobbies. As a matter of fact, a lot of people treat their hobbies with more seriousness than they do businesses. They certainly spend more money on their hobbies than they do their businesses.
Well, I think we don't know the depth of Anna or Kimberly's situation, but I think you do have to look at, is this a business? Is your blog going to be a business for you or part of your business platform? Is this the website you're setting up for your business? And if it is, I believe you have to pay to play. You do have to invest in something that looks nice, that looks professional, and you can do it yourself. I do all my websites myself, and they turn out looking really well because I have that skill. But if it's just a hobby, you can treat it in a different way if you're taking the hobby approach. So that's the first thing you'd want to look at. Is it a business? You got to kind of go in a different route than if it's a hobby.
And putting money down can shortcut your learning process. I think time is our most valuable commodity. So if you want to do it for free, you might be able to do it, let's say, within a couple of years. Sometimes if you got a little money, you can take care of that in a couple of weeks or a month.
And I think the first thing that matters is that content is what's really going to matter here. I mean, you can have a really simple, basic website, and something that comes to mind is James Clear's website. It's just jamesclear.com. You can check that out. Very minimalist website. I mean, it has it's all white, just has a couple menu items and then the content, but people love it and really connect with what he does because content is really what matters there. So if you're just trying to put up a blog to connect with people and get up content and grow your business, sometimes really simple is going to work wonders for you.
Seth Godin, arguably the most popular blogger on all of the internet. Very, very simple. As a matter of fact, Seth Godin is actually a really great example for this. He doesn't even have a domain name attached to his blog. He uses the TypePad domain, which is the platform he uses, sethgodin.typepad.com, which I think proves that you don't even need your own domain name to set up a blog. With that said, I think it's worth the money. We had an episode all about premium domain names, and there's still a lot of great domain names that you can get for $12. So right there, we've got $188 left in our budget.
There you go. Well, why do you think Seth Godin went the whole typepad.Seth Godin route or whatever he did?
I've met Seth Godin a few times, and he is a person that is more interested in spreading his message than getting caught up in little details. You've seen those people, I know, Laurel, they get caught up in the latest apps. What app do you have? And do you have this time-saving app? And I need another app in the latest gizmos. And this guy, he's not fancy at all. He just has really great ideas, and he wants to spread them. So he doesn't worry with things that are going to take him away from spreading those ideas. And I think he just believes in the philosophy so much that, he would be kind of going against himself if he made it too fancy. He's just like, hey, I'm going to put out the best ideas that I can, and they're ideas worth spreading, and let's watch them spread.
Although I think details are important. I mean, I love details. Details are my thing, and I think they can definitely enhance your website and your online presence. But I think there's a difference between what you're talking about, David, with apps and gimmicks and all kinds of new things and the kind of the hype of that versus like paying attention to the details, maybe picking a great domain name or something like that, which I think are important details that are going to help you stand out these days. Because you're not a Seth Godin, I'm guessing, if you're listening to this.
No. And Seth Godin certainly doesn't have money problems, not from what I've seen.
No.
So he could spend a lot more money, but doesn't. I'm sure TypePad. I've actually been running a TypePad blog for probably 10 years. My music business site, musicmarketing.com, is run on TypePad. Love it because I don't have to worry about viruses. I don't have to worry about a lot of the problems that WordPress has as far as compatibility with plugins or any of the things that you run into with WordPress. And it probably runs me, I've been with them so long, I don't think they've raised the price. Maybe it's $150 a year. So that's not too bad, and I can run multiple blogs on it. Never had a problem. Always great service from those guys. And I think just for that kind of money, and they might give him his for free.
Probably.
Because he's Seth Godin.
It's unfair.
They're making me pay.
The people with all the money get stuff for free, like all the celebrities.
But think about the endorsement. What is that worth? What is that worth? But we can talk about Red Podcast. That didn't cost us really much of anything. We had to get software. We chose WordPress for it, which is a free open source software. Mm-hmm. Downloaded that for free. And we needed hosting, which you've got a great video on your blog, gofireyourself.com, that shows people how to set it up with a host for, what, $10 a month maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it's about $10 a month. You get, and that will honestly include a non-premium domain name if you do it that way. So if you buy your domain name separately on GoDaddy or something like that, and it's not premium, it'll be about $12, and then the hosting is about $10 a month. If you go all together, like if you do DreamHost or Bluehost or something, I think they include your first domain name for free, and then it's $10 a month.
But with that said, I think that you should go through a different domain broker to get your domain. You want to make sure you own your domain and not the hosting company. Some hosting companies, as part of that deal, they own the domain name. So be careful about that. I like Namecheap.com personally for that. GoDaddy I've had issues with, not worth getting into here, but there have been some various, like if somebody will come up to them and say, hey, this guy's infringing on our trademark, there's some fights that the domain name owner has lost, which in my opinion shouldn't have. So I just stopped dealing with GoDaddy. But maybe another discussion for another episode. But Namecheap.com can hook you up for about the same price, about $12.
Well, I think either way, you're looking at about $10 a month for hosting. You're looking at $12 if you don't buy a premium domain name. And you're also, like what I do is get a template for WordPress. So I like themeforest.net.
And is that where the Red Podcast template came from?
It did.
Okay, how much was that?
That was about $45.
About $45. You're good with Photoshop, so all the graphics were things that we could do. We could have done that probably on Elance. What do you think that would have run us? I mean, well, we had a logo done.
Yeah, we did have a logo done.
That was $300 at 99 Designs. We also have another episode of this podcast actually that talks about 99 Designs. So look that up on redpodcast.com for more information on how to deal with graphic designers. But just the general graphics, I don't know that you necessarily need those.
No, these templates that you can get for WordPress, I mean, they look professional without having the customized graphics that I do. I like the customized graphics. It works for me. It's not something you need if you're trying to go do this on the cheap, because those templates have everything that you need. You can set them up really easily. You don't have to know a lot about coding. You don't have to know anything about computers or anything. Well, you have to know a lot about computers, but you don't have to know anything about coding, I guess, to get those templates up and looking really sharp and professional.
But the biggest issue that a blog would fail, it's not graphics. It is lack of great content. It's lack of direction. It's lack of consistency. I think if you can get those three things, the content, direction, consistency, know who you're talking about, know what it is that you want to say, that's going to go a long way. And that's the first thing that I would do. And that won't cost you a thing.
Well, let's talk about the next question, because I think you're kind of getting into that a little bit.
Okay.
And that's from Rohi. Rohi says, what is a checklist for setting up my blog? And that kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today. So, David, what would you say the first thing is?
First thing,
we might be repeating
for
ourselves.
Yeah, well, we will. You want a name for it, obviously, and that's duh, right? But a lot of people, believe it or not, they don't think like that. I come up with a great name, a great domain name, then I work the content around it. I know what I want to say, but that's kind of the pivotal point for me. So again, I recommend namecheap.com.